Today, we're taking a look at Ash of Gods Redemption on the Nintendo Switch. Turn-based strategy meets visual novel. Can it live up to the greats like Banner Saga? Because, well, let's face it, clearly heavily influenced by it. I mean, really obvious. But let me say it now, that's not a bad thing. Choose your influences wisely, I say, and they for sure chose a great one here. With that though, let's jump in and take a look. Ash of Gods Redemption tells the story of three heroes facing an ancient mythical evil, the Reapers. The game, it opens on the first reaping attack in over 1,000 years, and in true fantasy fashion they destroy everyone. Our heroes have to stop all of this. We get three each with a separate tale as you rotate around them. Captain Thron Brennan, a near emotionless guard, Lo Feng, and then the scribe Hopper Rowley. This story, I've got to say, gets complicated very quickly and you will need to pay attention to every single word on screen. And just as a note, there's a lot of reading. If that's not your thing, then you can stop this video now. Honestly, this one's not for you. For everyone else though, you're in for a real treat here with its story. It's a nice summary. You're out to stop the Reapers who are out to destroy the world and raise what I can only imagine are gods we don't want to see walking amongst mankind. No spoilers though, that's all I'm saying. With the story though, I really like a few design decisions in here. Frequently switching the hero up I was controlling kept things fresh on the storyline without ever really losing focus. There's a huge number of locations too because of this. And then the character writing overall, it's incredibly strong to the point where when I was making a decision in game, I wasn't only thinking, what do I think personally? But if I was the character, what response would I give? It allowed me to play with three different personalities almost, which is rare as you normally go for, that either good guy award or the badass who don't care about anything when you play these types of games. My only complaints, the game does very little to guide you into the lore or the world. It's pretty much like 100 miles per hour from the start, and you're going to need to pay real close attention here to piece everything together. It's not a bad thing as such, but just a little bit more world building wouldn't have hurt them. Then I will say there's the occasional bit of dialogue that's a little weak too. It was so infrequent though, don't let that put you off. The story, it can just kind of get a little bit slow in a few moments in the middle. Overall though, great work here for story. My favourite part was my experience can and I'm sure will be very different to yours. That's because not only does every decision lead you towards one of four endings, but no character here in the story is safe. Any of them can die at any moment, and that adds to some true weight to the whole experience. Just top marks overall. Now when it comes to gameplay, let's first tackle the quick part, the visual novel elements. These parts are basically made up of three different pieces. We've got cutscenes with just no interaction at all from you, face-to-face moments with text boxes where you can make decisions and responses, and then the occasional menu-based decision that's more like where will we go next or who will we speak to. Think basically choose your own adventure and you get the idea here. When it comes to the selection moments, they typically provide you with a question or a very clear scenario to respond to. Now as I said with story though, all of these decisions, they have a weight at a very basic level, It could be, will you avoid a fight or will you be the catalyst that starts one? They do get a lot heavier than that, trust me, it's just a kind of small example. But these moments, they never felt like questions for the sake of questions. It all felt like important and an opportunity to make an impact on this overarching storyline. Now with pacing, if you're worried about text, slowly scrolling down your screen too, we've all been there, especially when it's such a text-heavy adventure as well. Don't worry, a smart decision in the options here allows you to display all the text at once, and that way you can just kind of fire through at your own pace. This helped me personally through a few of those slight dips in the middle that I mentioned where things slowed down. Now the big part of the gameplay, the turn-based strategy. It's pretty much a traditional grid-based system to show where you can move and attack. Moving one character each turn, this can, I will say, lead to some pretty intense moments too. It's overall for sure not easy and it ramps pretty damn quickly. In Ash of Gods though, you're managing not only, a health bar, but energy which impacts your abilities, attacks, defense mechanics, and magic cards, so you can then just cast spells in battle. Say like drain an enemy's HP or heal a teammate. I will say those first few battles, they're overwhelming, but give it a little bit of time and you will get your head around it all. Now what I really liked with battles, having 3 different heroes too, it provides a very different feel depending on who you are playing as and controlling, you know, from being an incredibly strong warrior who can kick pretty much everyone's ass on his own, through to an in comparison just weakling who must rely on those around them for support. I also want to talk about that energy that I mentioned quickly too. Yeah, I know I said it impacts actions, but it plays a real big part in the attack plan and strategy here. And that's because when it comes to yours or an enemy's attacks, you can choose to focus on either their HP or whittling down their energy. Why would you want to do this? It's because if an enemy loses all of its energy, then every attack you make following this does double the damage. But just know they can reverse this on you and yeah, do it to you too. It's pretty lame when they just absolutely kick your ass. The best way to look at it is stamina, essentially. It's great fun, as I say, when you do it against an enemy and you see that life bar just drain down in seconds, just not so much when they flip things on you. The battlefield isn't everything though for combat. Now before each battle, you're going to be choosing your band of warriors who's going to be alongside you. You'll be selecting the magic cards you'll be using as well. But you'll also want to keep a close eye on which of your characters are near permadeath, because once they are gone for good. Now how this works is if a character is knocked down 4 separate times in 4 separate battles, they are done. Game over, gone. Fortunately though, I will say you can save them. The game gives you an option to heal them with what's called Strixes. Strixes are in the game essentially points you can spend. In the story and in the game world, they're magic. For us, they're just kind of a convenience. Use these and you can keep them alive, taking away one of the initial 3 injuries. So if you really like a character, keep a close eye on them and keep healing them. I made that mistake and I just couldn't go back, unfortunately. Now I will say here as well, though, not everything is perfect with the combat. It's very, very repetitive. The game pretty much gives you everything up front from the very first battle, and then all you can really expect from here is to, you know, see leveling up, the occasional new warrior, different attacks, different sized battlefield, and of course increasingly tougher enemies. I think maybe they needed to just slow it down, the pace, just a tiny bit, because by the halfway point I was getting a little bit bored, if I'm being honest. It was very much the story that was keeping me returning, not necessarily the combat. I think maybe introducing some of the elements later, like the magic, would have been a nice decision here, and they could have incorporated that moment when you finally get these cards, these abilities, to kind of weave them into the plot. Also, I will say the controls on the Joy-Cons or the Pro Controller, they're a little awkward. Not really the game's fault, I'll say that now. It's simply more a restriction of moving away from keyboard and mouse setup. It's just a warning more than anything that it's going to take a little while getting used to it, you know, with hero selection, enemy selection, attack choice, grid-based movements, magic card setup. There's quite a bit going on here for a little old controller. Once you get your head around it though, it is fine, it definitely works. Just those first couple of hours, it's a little bit on the frustrating side as you have that learning curve. Patience is though key, and I promise you, you will perfect it eventually. It's just going to take a tiny bit of time. Now, if all this combat talk sounds like a little too much for you, a little too intense, a little too challenging, one really interesting part for these battles, this gameplay, they've included 3 difficulties. Easy, medium and hard essentially. They gave them cool names. But what easy does here is actually control the battles for you and lets you focus on just the visual novel elements. This is also an option you can select from the in-game menu at any time, and I won't lie, the middle slump that I spoke about when I was getting kind of strategy burnout, I turned it on for a few rounds so I could continue the story but not have to worry about, you know, repeating the same battles. It's a nice little break. It's not a perfect system. The occasional battle it just couldn't win for some reason, I'd have to take over. But I will say it's a nice inclusion, so if you're thinking, oh, I like the idea of the story but not necessarily the battle moments, this might still be the game for you. Last up for gameplay, I know there's a lot here, but this is it. We get the world map. Simplistic in design, it works. Basically, choose the location you want to go to and watch your team move. Gives you a sense of freedom choosing from set locations you can visit next. Like healing, you'll be using Strixes again here for these moments. And each journey, it has a corresponding impact on your team. You know, those longer journeys, they're going to be bad for morale, for example. These sections are short and sweet. There's really no complaints from me. Overall gameplay, the visual novel elements are great. Every decision you make feels like it has an impact, a weight to it. And then the turn-based combat, it's not perfect. It never really evolves, but it was still fun for the most part. And like I said, when you do get bored or if you kind of want just a little break, turn auto battle on. keep pushing the story forward and then return when you're ready. I wasn't ashamed to use it, honestly. I thought it was a great idea because this game, it actually lasted me about 22 to 25 hours. There's a whole lot of gameplay ahead of you here, so it was nice to know I could just kind of chill out for a moment, keep the story going and flip a switch when I needed to. Now, if it shows its influence from Banner Saga in any area, it's visuals. Obvious? Yes. Bad decision? How no. This game is stunning to look at, like its influence. Hand-drawn animations, interesting worlds, cutscenes that never break that stylistic nature of the whole experience. I just can't fault them. Yeah, they don't quite match Banner Saga. Everything felt a tiny bit less detailed, and the world, it doesn't always give that same kind of, epic location size. But what we do get is, we get a lot of like small street battles, small villages, small areas, and they still look incredibly good, and overall I just can't praise it enough. Every character here has a level of design that was instantly relatable to their own tale. Then the new characters we come across also just never felt lazy. Every single design had its own kind of unique style. Everything told a story here, they just felt truly unique. This is passionate work on show the whole way through. If I did have any complaints on the visuals front, I'd say there's two very minor ones. The map, it's kind of dull looking, honestly. I would have liked something with a little more visual flair to match kind of the rest of the experience, add that style here. And then the animations during dialogue and battle. It's all a little simplistic for me. I would have liked to have seen, a different reaction at a kind of key emotional moment. Or maybe an alternate attack for the battles, because you're going to see them over and over and over again. But I also realise how unreasonable a request this would be. These battles, these visual novel elements, they're constant throughout the entire experience, as are the character models in dialogue. That would have been a ton of work, and it would have probably required an army of artists to achieve it. So yeah, here are top marks for visuals, some of the best hand-drawn animation I've seen in a long time. Last up here today we get audio. First off, the music, another amazing job here, scoring the world perfectly. It hits that kind of balance between fantasy and epic, knowing exactly where to ramp the excitement or kind of build on the emotion. This theme's just coming in and out throughout the whole experience, and it just feels AAA in my opinion. As soon as I noticed actually how good the music was, I did some digging. I wanted to look up who made this, and I'm not surprised to see they previously worked on projects like the Witcher series, Painkiller, and EVE Online. A pretty impressive set of credits there, and I can see why they keep on getting work. Then we get sound effects. Weapons, they each have their own kind of audio cue. Cutscenes, they're fully realised with war sounds or locations. We even get the small occasional effect in the background of dialogue to reinforce a statement. Let's say, they said something like they attacked from a distance. Behind this dialogue, we're going to hear swords clashing. It's pretty light, honestly, on the sound effect front, but it does enough here to add an extra layer on top of the score. They even add, like, before each chapter, there's like a small amount of recorded dialogue too. My only complaint for audio, I would have liked a little more recorded dialogue to break up the text. I'm not saying everything, and I get it, it was probably a budget constraint, but it really would have helped add another level of dimension to our characters, or even just a few more scenes with voiceover, setting the scene. So the final verdict, this game, it brings a whole lot to the table. One thing I haven't mentioned as well, price-wise, it's coming in at $30 on the US eShop, or £25 in the UK, digital or physical. I'll be importing this for sure, I've already pre-ordered it. It's not a bad price at all in my opinion for such a well pieced together package, one that I said lasted me around 20 to 25 hours. That's double the length of most of the Banner Saga entries. Does it have flaws? For sure, combat gets repetitive, the story can be a little bit dull in the middle and slow, and then the overall pieces as well, animation, voice acting, the auto battle system that just didn't sometimes quite work. It occasionally shows the budget nature of this one. But for anyone who doesn't realise this, that's exactly what it is. It started as a Kickstarter project, so it weren't exactly able to throw money around. What I want to make clear though is none of these very minor flaws stopped me from coming back. For that 10% of story that's kind of slow in the middle, we get 90% that's just great. The animations, they may be simplistic, but what we do get in style and design is rarely matched in other games. And then the lack of any real voice acting, it combats this with a soundtrack that's just truly beautiful. I will be going back As I said, I've ordered the physical copy already of this one to sit on my shelf. I'm excited to see what this team does next because this shows some true skill. And today I'm awarding Ash of Gods Redemption a great 8 out of 10. If you haven't played Banner Saga, I will say start there. It's the more refined experience, honestly. But if you've already beaten that one, come here next. Thanks so much for watching. Hit like, leave us a comment below with your thoughts, and we will see all of you amazing people on the next Gaming X.